My history hour project is about the Great Famine in China. I interviewed my grandma, who was a student living in China during the Great Famine. In China, the Great Famine is called 3 Years of Natural Disasters. It is interesting to see how this name assumes that this disaster was caused by nature. So I asked my grandma, do you think the 3 years of natural disasters was caused by human or nature? She said it was both. On one hand, the weather conditions was very poor, but on the other hand, people exaggerated the agricultural yields. For example, they would report to have produced 1,000 kilos of crops while they really only produced 100 kilos. So I asked, why did they do so? She said the cities and states were competing with each other. They all wanted to be honored. The Great Famine occurred after the Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward is an economic and social campaign in China from 1958 to 1961. It was led by Mao and CPC. At first, Mao set reasonable goals for crops production, but after a while, the competition between cities and states started, and people began to lie about the actual amount of wheat they produced. What was your life like during the 3 years of natural disasters? My grandma said, we had merely enough to eat. There was no meat in the market, but I was a student. Student could get more food. Your grandfather was rich. He could buy some cake occasionally. At that time, crabs and desserts were considered as luxury goods. We lived in Shanghai, and cities like Shanghai were not greatly impacted, she added. Do you have any stories that you want to share? My grandma said, yes. Your father's babysitter spent most of her salaries on candies, and she mailed them back to her hometown, Anhui. Her candies saved all the people in her village's lives. The candies saved the people's lives? I was a little astonished, so I did some research on the internet, and I found a story about people living in Anhui. The blogger said his mother told him the story. It was lucky to find grass to eat. All the tree barks were eaten. Occasionally, the commune would provide a bowl of porridge a day. When winter comes, sometimes families died one after another. There was food in the village, but the officers took all crops away, and they would search the houses to see if any food was hidden. People couldn't have any of the food they grew with their own hands. What was the social environment like during the 3 years of natural disasters? My grandma said, people living in the cities did not suffer from hunger, and their daily life, like education and entertainment, was not greatly impacted. There was just not that much to eat. In the countryside, however, a lot of people died. It is estimated that about 50 million people died during the Great Famine. The government introduced a distribution policy. That is, in addition to our salaries, we received food tickets every month. We had to use both money and the corresponding ticket to buy certain goods. Even if you were rich, you couldn't live a much different life from others. If you are given a food ticket of 20 grams of oil per month, then you can only buy 20 grams of oil every month. Did people's opinions on Mao change during the 3 years of natural disasters? How did they like him? My grandma said, they didn't think much of him. They still loved him. They only started disliking him after he started the Cultural Revolution. Does the Great Famine have a lasting impact on you? My grandma said, it doesn't have much impact. but the food tickets and commodity tickets were used until late 80s. More and more common tickets occurred: meat ticket, bike ticket, and TV set tickets. One of my neighbors didn't have meat for a year. He saved all his meat tickets and exchanged them for a TV set ticket. In conclusion, although calling it 3 years of natural disasters, people in China still viewed the cause of this event rationally. They realized human cause side of the event, although they failed to see Mao's involvement. Government distribution policies was a success, and the situation in the countryside was much worse than in the cities. The Great Famine didn't have much lasting impact on people in the cities, but about 15 million people in China died.